10 of the most cruel tortures invented by mankind. Torture, at one time, was a cruel daily routine for some unfortunate people. But the main problem is not so much in the very fact of the existence of torture, as in the imagination and, sometimes, pleasure with which the creators of these very torture devices approached their activities. And to prove it, here are 10 examples of the most brutal methods of torture ever invented. Quartering, a type of execution in medieval England for high treason. The condemned man was tied to a wooden sled and dragged by horses to the place of execution, where he was successively hanged without suffocating to death, castrated, gutted, quartered, and beheaded. The remains of the executed were displayed in the most famous public places of the kingdom and the capital, including on London Bridge. Sawing. The victim was hung upside down on ropes so that the blood flowed to the head and forced to remain conscious, and sawed lengthwise, starting from the crotch. Often they were not sawed to the end, but only to the abdomen in order to prolong the agony of the victim. Spanish donkey, one of the most terrible means of execution of the Spanish Inquisition. A naked man was sitting on a V-shaped device with a sharp wedge on top. Next, the executioner added weight to the man's legs until the wedge cut through the body. Cement shoes. This type of execution was invented by the American Mafia to punish enemies, traitors, and others. The victim was placed on a cylindrical base, which was filled with cement. After the cement solidified, the person was dumped into the water. The torture chair, also known as the Judas chair. This terrible device for intimidating people was invented in the Middle Ages and was used in Europe until the 19th century. This chair consisted of spikes, of which there were from 500 to 1500. The criminal was fixed with special straps. There were also gaps in the chair for heating elements. Torture by rats, one of the most sadistic methods of torture. The cage was placed with the open side on the victim's body, after which rats were launched into it and heated. The instinct of the rats, for lack of a way out, forced them to gnaw their way through the body of the unfortunate. The guillotine, the most famous form of execution. A sharp blade was attached to the rope, fixing it on the sides. The victim's head was placed in a special recess from below, and when the blade fell, the condemned was instantly beheaded. It was considered a painless procedure, at least against the background of other tortures. One of the most humane executions. Iron Maiden. The device was a kind of iron cabinet with a hinged door and spikes inside. Every movement of the convict caused him terrible pain. Interrogations were often conducted by this method. The Cradle of Judas. This terrible punishment consists in putting the sufferer on a pyramid-shaped platform and slowly pulling ropes down, stretching and tearing the victim's anus for a long time. On top of that, the person is usually naked, and the platform is never washed, which adds humiliation. And if the convict did not die during torture, then the infection will finish what it started. Bowl of Phalaris, also known as the Sicilian bowl or the copper bowl. It was invented in ancient Greece. The victim was placed inside a hollow piece of brass through a door on the side. Next, a bonfire was lit under the statue of the bull, and the metal was heated, changing color and frying the person inside. The design of the bull's nostrils was perforated, so that smoke emanated from them, and the screams of the victim were also heard, more like the roar of an angry animal. Subscribe to the channel, like and write a comment. See you in the next story.